What's the most uncomfortable secret someone has told you? One evening, I was out at a bar with a friend I'd known since high school. Let's call him Mike. Mike had always been a bit of a risk taker, but generally he was the responsible one in our group. The guy who double-checked the reservations, keep track of everyone's tabs, and was ironically the one who held people accountable. That night, however, he seemed different. His usually easygoing demeanor was tense, and he kept glancing around the room as if someone was watching him. After a few drinks, he pulled me aside and said, "There's something I need to tell you. I haven't told anyone else, but I can't keep it to myself anymore." He hesitated for a moment, staring down at his drink, then took a deep breath and confessed, "I've been stealing kind of stealing money from my job." I froze, genuinely shocked. Mike worked as a financial advisor for a large firm, trusted with managing other people's money. He explained that it had started with a minor slip-up, a client payment that somehow didn't get processed correctly, leaving a few $1,000s floating in the system. Instead of reporting it, he'd kept the money for himself, thinking he'd replace it as soon as he could. But as he went on, the story got darker. He revealed that the small amounts gradually turned into a habit. At first, it was just to cover my bills. Then, I got used to it. It felt like free money, he admitted, his face a mix of shame and disbelief at himself. Listening to him, I could barely process that the guy I'd always thought of as responsible and by the book had fallen so far into something so serious. As he continued, the guilt and paranoia poured out of him. He told me how every day felt like walking on a tightrope. He'd become obsessed with covering his tracks, double-checking every transaction, even avoiding certain coworkers who he thought might get suspicious. He hadn't slept properly in weeks, always waiting for the day someone would notice the discrepancies. By now, the amount he'd taken was more than he could pay back, and he admitted that he felt trapped, unable to see a way out. "I think I'm gonna get caught soon," he whispered, his voice barely audible. There was a desperation in his eyes that unnerved me. It was as if he'd come to terms with an inevitable downfall. He asked me what he should do, hoping I could somehow give him an answer that would make everything right. But I didn't know what to say. Every suggestion I considered felt inadequate, and part of me wondered if he was even looking for a solution or just someone to share the burden of his guilt. After that night, I couldn't look at Mike the same way. The secret he'd unloaded onto me felt like a ticking time bomb, and I started feeling uneasy whenever I saw him. Eventually, I distanced myself.